Hello there. I'm here with Phoenix, my little wild child. I'm working on sort of intuitive movement, which is perfect for the intuitive horse. I'm involved in experimental movement and improv for humans. And so I'm sort of bringing that element into moving with my horses on the ground and when I ride. It's just easier to show groundwork with my phone sitting here. It's not that easy to show it riding. Uh, but yeah, so my movements are I in the backwards leading position. I want his nose kind of reaching towards my belly button, and then I will turn my shoulders and my hips to so that I'm beside him, and I'll leave my whip in the same position. So I try not to change too much so that he gets confused, because basically we're just communicating with body language about how we're moving together. So I'll go from the backwards to on the inside of the circle with him, and then I'll go to the backwards position again, and then I'll go on the outside of him. And I'm using my shoulders a lot to invite him towards me, and then when there's space, I'll use my shoulder to get on the outside of him. And sometimes that doesn't work, so then I have to go back and invite him to turn, have the shape of the circle so I can put my shoulder on the outside. So sometimes I'll have to try a few times to get that and for him to understand that. And as I'm doing these different ways of walking with him, I'll be going straight, and then I'll be doing like a bit of a turn with the front feet, like maybe 2 steps of a turn, and then straight, and then a turn. So again, it's all just playing with body language and experimentation, intuition. So this is how we learn to communicate with each other. So I'm not always just doing the same thing all the time. I want him to be tuned into me, and I'm tuned into him, and we can kind of flow into all different ways of moving with each other. And you'll notice that in the backwards leading position, he feels confident and he'll move more quickly. And then when I go beside him on the inside or the outside, he's very slow because he's less confident in that position. So then I slow down and try to be as close to him as possible. And you'll also notice on each side it's very different. On one side he'll be very close to me, on the other side he'll be very far away from me. And I'm not trying to force anything, so I'm just sort of playing with the speed and the distance. And I have to, because it's at liberty, I can't force anything. So I just sort of have to match his speed and his distance, and then over time I can start to play with those things. So I'll just show you real quick. There. So it's all very experimental, and I'm just sort of uh, feeling what he can understand, and he's trying to figure out what I'm trying to communicate with him. So sometimes, if we get too far apart, he loses the connection. So then I go back to the backwards leading position. Sometimes, if I make the turn too tight for his comfort, then he'll stop. And whenever he stops, it's because he's kind of uncertain. So then I go back to the backwards leading position. So it's all just super experimental, but it's a way of learning to communicate with each other that's really, really helpful. So when I do practical things like grooming or bringing him to the mounting block, I can use this body language to communicate with him and ask him to do things with me. So now, after doing this liberty, I'll put the cavesson and lunge line on, and then I'll do a lot of the same movements. And because I've done it with no equipment, now with equipment, he understands better what I'm asking for. So I don't need to drag him around or hit him with a whip or anything like that. Not that I would hit any of my horses. But things can stay really, really soft and really subtle when I use equipment because he understands with no equipment, or I'm working on that understanding. Okay?